footwork or foot movement. So what I'm going to do is teach a whole bunch of techniques here with our footwork and foot movement here. Look, footwork is survival. Movement is survival, especially when we're in real encounters against a bigger, stronger attacker, maybe more dangerous attacker. I need to move my feet. So what happens is here is a lot of this, I'm going to do this whole thing with my left foot forward. So my left foot forward stance, and I'm going to be teaching all of this footwork from the left foot forward. Of course, everything I teach, you should do the mirror and try all of this later with your right foot forward as well. And with our footwork and movement, we want to have fast footwork and real agile footwork because we don't want to go toe to toe with an attacker. So we're going to use this footwork here to keep us safe, to find openings here, allow us to get to Retsef or a takedown or to run away. And this will help keep us minimal damage and surviving. Now in ring fighting, you get taught a lot to stay in front of the attacker. But this is because it's a setup, it's a game, it's a match, it's a competition here. We're going to stand in front of each other, work out my opponent, we're going to work out who's the better fighter. I've got rounds to sit and break him down, find his opening, find his weaknesses. In real life, we don't have that time. It's going to be fast and aggressive and very, very stressful. So here I want violence of action. I want speed, agility, and movement here to keep damage off me and to be able to apply my damage to the attacker here. For a lot of you, this is going to feel a little bit awkward. If you haven't danced before, you're going to be dancing now. It's called dancing in the ring because your feet are going to be moving in all sorts of directions. I'm going to hopefully want them to float. So just like the quote of Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, we spend a lot of time in classes stinging like bees with our strokes. Now we're getting to the floating like a butterfly part. So we're going to look at some footwork here. Now, there's going to be a lot of terminology here that may even be a little bit confusing at points, but the terminology is just for me to be able to deliver the different types of technique footwork that we're going to look at. This is just to delineate the differences between the types of stepping we will do. At the end of the day, practice, 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 and we want our feet to take control of themselves. So with my footwork and movement here, I want my feet to worry about that. I will be more conscious and focused on attacking, defending, seeing my attacker and tactics and where I can go, rather than figuring out where I should put my feet or even thinking about this, the names of the steps for my footwork. I basically want my feet to take care of themselves, they're going to do their dance, and I'll be focusing on higher-minded things. So we're going to be looking at, with our movement and footwork, we're going to do all of this as I'm teaching with our left foot forward here. And this is just easy as we progress and build on some of these steps. We'll always do it from a left foot forward so you can build up some coordination here. Clearly, you must try all of these and train with your right foot forward because how we defend and fight, we like to flow and have no set stance. We like to flow right foot forward, left foot forward. In fact, I don't even think about which foot forward is typically in the lead. I want to be able to flow so no angle is closed off to me, whether for defending, avoiding, or attacking. And that makes me more free, harder to hit and pin down, and I can exploit more safety and more counterattacks. So when we're doing this, eventually we do want to flow with both of our feet forward with all of these steps here. And basically, you have some systems, most systems, boxing one that stands out where they have an orthodox stance or where their leg is forward and they keep their stance and they get trained to keep their stance that way. The problem is as you're moving, you've actually closed off some defense and offense to yourself because you're having to move around a lead leg here. So basically, we don't want to feel like we're like a gate on a hinge. We want to feel more like we're a revolving door, basically. So any angle is open to us for countering and movement. We're going to now look at just the basics. These basic steps, everything builds from these. So you'll want to learn these terminologies at least, so you can help develop some more movements later. But from my left foot forward fighting stance here, now basically we've got skip steps, cross steps and replacement steps. Now, when I just talk about directions here, obviously the attacker is typically in front of me, so we're going to be more moving at the moment with an attacker in front. Clearly, when there is multiple attackers, I actually need to move quicker, and I'll actually have to open up my angles typically more. But we'll just deal with more of a single attacker in front. Now, from my stance, I have basically these general directions. I've got forward, I've got back, I've got left and my right, and I've also got the 245s. I've got the 245s in front of me, and then I've got the 245s retreating behind me here. So these are our general directions that we can move, and clearly I've got all the minute of angles in between that. Now, for terminology purposes, but also where we move and how we're going to deal with the attacker in our movement, from my left to right and all in front, 180 degrees, this is advancing. And then from my left and right, horizontally to behind me, here, all of this is retreating for us. Now I'm going to look at skip steps. Skip steps first. So from here, the left foot forward. At the moment, I'm going to be talking a lot about lead foot and rear foot. I'm not going to talk about left foot and right foot. So with my lead foot here, we're going to be doing advancing with the skip step. And if I just use the general directions I just said, with my lead step, a skip step is an open to close of the stance. So what happens is here, the leg closest to the direction I want to go is the one that's going to move first into that direction. So if I want to move forward, my lead leg here is closest to the forward direction, so I'm going to move that first. And I move it, and then I close my stance. And it's an opening of the stance, because if I turn, you will see with my skip step here, I move that foot in a direction, and then my rear foot closes the stance. So it's an open to close. I've got forward, but I've also got my 45 degrees. So from here, I'll go 45 degrees off my lead leg, and this starts to break the line for me. I can also go left and right, so here opening up my stance. And even if I want to go this way, despite the fact that this leg is in the rear, this leg is closest to this direction. So for a skip step, I will open that one up and then close off my stance here. And yes, clearly if there was an attacker here, I would probably orientate my feet and my shoulders towards the attacker. Rather, if there's an attacker here and I just do this, I'm now waltzing with a ghost. So if there was an attacker here and I was stepping to my right with a skip step, I would do a bit of orientation, whether it's a defend or counter attack. To continue on, skip steps now in retreat. If I want to go behind me, the closest foot to behind me is this leg. This happens to be my rear. So the closest leg will move first, open to close here. And if I go side on, so you can see this one, open to close. And for retreating at the 45 angle, again, I'm going to go over the same side leg as the 45 that's closest. So from here, I'm going to go in that angle, and you'll see open to close with my skip step works well. Now, for skip steps, I've skipped two directions. The advancing 45 here and the retreating 45 here. Basically, these two angles here, I can't do a true skip step. If I did, which we do have these a little bit more advancing steps, we don't do these very often, nor do they work well with most steps. But from here, I'm starting to cross over my feet, and I'm also exposing myself because I'm getting to the close side here. And if this was an attacker, I'm now pulling all of my weapons out of the way, and I'm exposing to the attacker here. So we have this step a little bit later on, but typically with most of our movements, we don't do it very often. Now this flows me into cross steps, because with a skip step, I could go this direction, this direction, not here, behind me, this direction, not here. So these two angles here, if I want to take a step, this is where the cross step comes into it. And it looks like this here. And so what happens is here, using the same principles, for this 45 advancing direction here, the closest foot to that side, this is my right hand forward 45, right hand side, right foot. So my right foot is closest to the right hand side. So what happens is here, this foot is going to step at the 45, come forward, and then I close the stance here. And this is called a cross step because the furthest leg here is going to move, and it crosses past this leg, and then I'm taking to 45, and then I close off the stance again here to get my balance back. I can literally come forward with this one as well. I can cross step. I can come forward with this. Nothing's stopping me. And a lot of these steps, some of you might have noticed with our striking, I can basically come through and do a strike from a cross step coming forward as well. I know you all can do a cross step because pretty much walking every day is a series of cross steps where I'm crossing, my rear leg is crossing, and this is basically just cross steps. I can literally retreat, do cross steps backwards here, but the problem with the backwards one is I don't want to do too many of them, because if I cross step back and then cross step back again, I'm starting to do what's called backpedaling. And a lot of you know backpedaling is the quickest way to trip over and fall. So basically here, when I'm doing this back here, works well to pull me away from an attacker here, create some space. I'm going to be careful doing too many cross steps backwards. And the last angle that I talked about from before, that was my 45 this way, 45 behind me. So from here to take this angle, which is my left behind me, my left foot is closer to left behind me. So here I'll take a step back and there's a cross step back. Replacement steps. Now replacement steps can stand alone as their own steps, but these work very well for our connector steps and our angle changing steps, which we'll look at a little bit later. So a replacement step actually moves in all the same directions that a skip step can move. So I can move forward, 45, to the sides. I can't go this way, that's my cross step angle. Directly behind me I can, 45 behind me this way, to the side as I said, but I can't go this way. So basically cross steps are going to take me there, and I can go front and back. Replacements take me to all the same angles as a skip step. And a replacement step is the opposite of a skip step in my movement with my foot. If a skip step is like so, a replacement step is the opposite, like so. And what happens is here, a replacement step is whichever direction I want to move. The furthest foot from that direction is the one that moves first this time. So if I want to go forward here, the furthest leg to that direction will move. So this one here to go forward. And I'm going to basically roughly put it where this lead leg was. Roughly, it doesn't be exact. And basically you can see it's a closing of my stance now. And what happens is here, as I start to close off the stance, this foot has a bit of a push off. And as this one pushes off a little bit, this one's moving first. And then there's a bit of a shuffle here as I land forward. You can see I'm actually moving forward because with these steps I want to close and or create distance here. So basically I'm moving with it and I'm not literally just stepping into the same foot positions. I'll take these replacement steps to all the same angles as a skip step. So forward, my 45 here, to my left. Cross steps are here, but backwards, or retreating back at this 45, to the right here, and my last 45 again is a cross step angle. I can't do replacement steps yet to there. And this is our replacement steps.